Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into your favorite, ProRevenge. Before we start, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and you can always change your mind later. Alright, our first story today comes to us from Astakask. I was able to simultaneously gain a $30,000 per year pension for my mother while wiping my piece of crap father's retirement. Let's jump right in. My father is the Canadian Satan. Growing up with him was less than fun, and I can assure you, based on witnessing it, he was a less than fun husband. I'd go on about what a piece of crap my father is, but instead I'll quote a judge. "You're the most despicable human I've ever had in my courtroom." And that's coming from a family court judge. I read this winning endorsement of my dad's personality in the court documents I acquired related to his divorce with my mom. The same place I discovered the effery he had engaged in to steal from my mom. It's also where I found the information I needed to get one over on him so severely he's going to disinherit me. A frame of reference about my father is that he's a pathological narcissist and behaves exactly how those people are compelled to act. They aren't generous people, and punching them in the wallet is like a slapshot to the taint from Gretzky. He's kind of like Donkey from Shrek, but also Joseph Stalin, a monstrous jackbutt. Chapter 1. Those that sow the wind shall reap a whirlwind. Our actions always have consequences, and my padre has plenty to answer for. My attempts to hold him to account didn't jump to immediate jihad. They started with diplomacy and a therapist. About 10 months ago when our tale begins, I was going through some stuff. Stuff being a whole lot of PTSD related to both my dad's abuse and my job as a paramedic. He did a ton that affected me deeply, things that I needed to move past, along with all that other razzmatazz from 15 years of EMS. In so trying to move past and work through everything, I quit drinking, started turning my untreated PTSD into treated PTSD, and thinking having my dad involved might help me and our relationship. Well, I seriously effing misjudged that one, so you'll probably be unsurprised to hear that conversation went swimmingly. I'll spare you the lurid detail, but when I broached the subject with him, our back and forth degenerated into visceral hate, with him screaming at me that I'm a failed paramedic, liar, and a piece of crap alcoholic. While I have a certain pride about my job, I have more pride in my 14-month sobriety. So hearing this from my old man might have caused me to behave a bit psychotically. I got right pissed off at him and decided to dig up every bit of dirt I could, see what kind of man he actually is and has been. When it was convenient, I hopped in the mystery machine before taking a trip to the courthouse to unleash my inner gumshoe. Everything is public record, so I bulk bought copies before retiring to my easy chair to read, plot, and pet my white long-haired cat. For good measure, I obtained a file of divorce document from my mother. Soon enough, I hit upon a line of inquiry worth following up on. It seems that during the final settlement of my parents' divorce, 2002, my mother was awarded 1/3 of my father's employment pension. She was a stay-at-home mother and could not earn one herself, so it was given to her by a judge. Mighty effing strange, because my father, as he brags, took a nearly full pension and retired a bit early. No way that butthot was living the last 10 years after retiring early on 2/3 pension. He isn't constantly bitching about it. So I asked my mother if she was collecting a pension from his job or had cashed out the value, $100K plus at the time 20 years ago. No to both questions. Well, that's interesting. I wonder if that's collectible on and what 20 years of compound interest from a pension fund makes it worth. Well, I did eventually find out, along with the fact that my dear old dad had been collecting my mother's portion for 10 years, in hilariously open violation of a legal order from a judge. Why didn't my mother pursue this sooner? A combination of being unable to afford a lawyer, being his victim for 20 years, and pessimism after so much of his continued dodging obligation to the order, she just quit. There is effectively no statute of limitations he could hide behind because of the wording of the settlement. Insofar as I could tell, I had him dead to rights, and my mother would be collecting. it would be a slam dunk. I just needed to hire a lawyer to help me, so I set out to find the most unbalanced, bloodthirsty psychotic who passed the bar exam. Chapter 2: A2 Pension Lady. As it says in the good book, screw unto others as they would screw unto you. So that's what I set out to do. The misanthropic sociopath I hired for legal counsel suggested we send a demand letter to the pension office to try and remedy it before filing what would undoubtedly be an easy win for him. I agreed in spirit and instead phoned up the pension office and got put through to the woman managing my father's file. Well, she was a delight, and it was a trivial matter for me to get her to loathe my dad. We talked for 45 minutes, and I swear if you'd given me another hour, I could have convinced her to bomb his house. In all our conversations about life, families, and relationships, we got down to some things of note. Since I could show her correspondence her office had sent to my father, CC'd my mom on, some years ago, and ongoing for 5 consecutive years, trying to resolve this matter which he had ignored, she was more than willing to start the process on remedy immediately. Full cooperation from this lady and her office was a matter of merely providing documentation, and with my lawyer on retainer, this office was beyond asking my father to comply. They complied for him. About 2 months since I last spoke to my father, and he now had no idea his pension was about to take a serious hit. Below, I'm going to break down how big a turd I put in his bowl of ice cream. My mother's portion was made whole and adjusted to reflect that her portion was brought to maturity and beyond, so his early retirement doesn't affect her fund. So he loses 10 years of valuation to her. He also retired 3 years early, which knocks him down now to 17 years of pension valuation, not 27. If you'd forgotten, my dad had been collecting my mom's money and was overpaid by $30,000 per year for the last 10 years. Like I said, mom was made whole, so the pension company is going to claw back that overpayment from the base valuation of his current pension fund. I'm not exactly sure what that does to the number, but it effectively nerfs my old man's private retirement fund. He's got government old age pension that he took early too. Whoops. My dad did some awful crap to me, but I only had to suffer 17 years of him. My mom still has the high score at 20. As much as I did this for spite and malicious glee, I did do it to give my mom a chance at proper retirement. Chapter 3: Glitter Bombs of Justice. My mother started collecting her pension about 3 months after I contacted the pension office, and to celebrate, she bought tickets to New Zealand for the family for Christmas, so we can see our relatives. I was able to get most of my retainer from the lawyer back, and to celebrate, I went online to order a glitter bomb. I was able to ship it to my old man anonymously from another country. God bless the USA. I heard through my sister he opened it up in his stupid red Miata. Ha ha ha. He'll never get rid of it. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Vigorous Pigeon. It says, beautifully planned, executed, and with a cherry on top. Congrats on your sobriety and your healing. You are not a failure. You are my hero of the day. Most of all, congrats, and I tip my imaginary hat to you for looking after your mom. OP used one of the most Canadian statements I think I've ever heard in a ProRevenge story. They aren't generous people, and punching them in the wallet is like a slapshot to the taint from Gretzky. It doesn't get much more Canadian than that. This next story comes to us from Ancient Ice. Make my coworkers cry. I will help karma turn your life upside down. Let's jump right in. Backstory: I worked at this hotel for over 2 years and was one of 2 people left that went through the training when our hotel changed hotel franchises. During this training, we were told about certain rules the company had. Cast, manager, front desk manager, he was only here for 4 to 6 months at this point. Me, I am a nice guy unless you are a bully or an entitled person. A few others I will mention as we go through. Story: one afternoon, I was scheduled to work second shift 3 to 11. I walked in and both AM front desk coworkers looked like they had been massively crying as their makeup was smeared. My manager looking quite pissed, I asked, what's wrong? We have a major jerk as a guest. This guy is the highest level on the rewards for the hotel chain. He is very demanding and wants free upgrades, free this or that, and screams anytime he has an interaction with the staff. This guy has made every department call me complaining about him. Now, this guy just came to the desk and screamed at these two coworkers until they were both crying. These two ladies were fresh high school graduates and were very sweet and innocent people. They loved helping people and didn't deserve this treatment. As he is explaining this, I look up this guy's room details. Once my manager finishes explaining everything this guy has done, I see the guy's info and I had a smile from ear to ear. I reply, "Didn't you see? He's an employee of a different hotel." "Yes, but so what?" I replied, "First off, while you travel as an employee, you're required to behave and be respectful. It is in the fine print on the discount form." I grabbed his form and showed it to the manager. Failure to be respectful can lead to having your employee discount suspended or permanently revoked, and could even get you terminated. You need to call this guy's hotel and ask for the GM, then explain to him who you are and what this guy is doing. I look up the hotel phone number and call the hotel, and then handed my manager the phone. Manager, after his call ends with the GM, he has an evil and satisfying smile on his face. His GM is steaming mad after I describe all the stuff this guy has done. Main switchboard phone rings. I answered. "Hello, thank you for calling hotel name. How may I direct your call?" "I want to speak to entitled jerk's room, please." I replied, "Absolutely, sir. Have a nice day." Transferred the call and looked at my manager and saying with a sarcastic tone, "Someone wanted to talk to entitled jerk. Gee, I wonder who that could be." Manager continues after he stopped laughing. "The GM gave me his personal cell phone number and said if I have any more issues to call him immediately. I am leaving the phone number next to the switchboard. If you need it, call him." I told manager, "Your revenge is done. Now for my revenge." Manager was wide-eyed. "Oh crap, what are you going to do?" Me smiling a very evil smile. "You'll see." I picked up the phone to make a call. "Hello, Hotel Rewards customer service? Yes, I would like to report someone using rewards account while using employee discount on his stay." "He can't do that." I replied, "I know, I'm calling to report him." I gave her the guest reservation number and rewards member number. I continued, "I bet anything if you dig through this guy's history, you will find all his stays are probably at employee discount. I'm starting a ticket to have this guy's account investigated." I replied, "Thank you," then hung up the phone. The manager watched as I then removed his rewards number from his stay. My manager had a huge grin on his face. That was awesome. I explained, "Oh, I'm not quite finished with him yet. It is time to go spread the news to all departments. He is no longer a rewards member." I made a new key for his room without concierge access. I walked around to every department. As I explained why I was stopping by, everyone had the same reaction as soon as I mentioned the guy's name. Oh god, what now about this butthole? I finished explaining how he was no longer a reward member, and if he gives anyone issues to call the front desk immediately, and his GM already probably tore him a new one just a minute ago. Everyone was so happy at this news. I finally went to the concierge room, used the guest's new key to void his current key. Then I walked into the room and explained the information to the evening concierge. She cringed at the mention of his name after explaining she would not have to deal with him again, and asked her to leave the morning person a note about this guy not allowed in the concierge room anymore. She was very happy. While I was gone, evidently the manager explained what we did to the 2 a.m. front desk ladies. The minute I got back to the desk, both my front desk coworkers all came up to me and gave me a huge hug and thanked me so many times. Manager to me after the other coworkers went home, "Do me a huge favor, please." I replied, "Sure, what's up? If I ever piss you off, please come tell me so I can fix the issue." Later that night, entitled jerk comes to the desk, hat in hand, politely saying his key doesn't work. I replied, "Oh, so sorry about that. Let me make you a new key," in the best fake smile I can muster. Aftermath. Next day, I check his rewards account and it is now suspended. Check back next week. Sorry, account number not found. Jumping down to the comments in this one, there's one from a user called Undersea Serenity. It says, "It's amazing that someone working in hospitality, let alone another hotel, could treat staff with such disdain. Usually, the crap you deal with in any service industry leads to treating others in the same field with more compassion, or at least understanding. There's definitely a couple of ways you can look at this though. There are people out there who go, well, I know what it's like, and I won't do that to other people. And then other people say, well, I had to take it, so now it's my turn to dish it out. Those people are giant dicks. This next story comes to us from RustySax. No show to a corporate meeting? We'll see about that. Let's jump right in. I'm not sure if this belongs here at ProRevenge or in a different Reddit sub. Please let me know if it does, but here it is anyway. The cast. Note that none of these names are real, they are all pseudonyms to meet guidelines. Brooke, my sister. Angie, the accounting girl. Mark, milquetoast boss. Victor, vice president of operations. This story is about my sister's first job after graduating from college with a bachelor's degree in business management back in the middle 70s. She was hired by that recording tape company whose advertising tagline was, "Is it real or is it?" Anyway, her job was the travel coordinator for both the sales and tech support teams out in the field to come to the corporate offices periodically for various types of meetings or training, depending on the field employee's specialty. Brooke's responsibilities included booking airline flights, hotels, rental cars, approving per diems, and other travel-related upfront arrangements. It didn't take her long to figure out that there were a lot of no-shows, particularly from the sales staff, who always seemed to have some valid excuse not to make it to the meeting, and often with last-minute cancellations. You know, the "I've just booked this golf game with my most important client this week, so can you reschedule me?" type of reasons. Seeing how these cancellations were costing the company big bucks, Brooke hatched a plan that created class rosters for each class, and would, just like a teacher, make notes as to who showed up and who didn't. After the class was over, she would calculate how much those who didn't show up had cost the company in terms of cancellation fees, missed flights, etc., and present them to Mark. His reaction, typical of a middle manager protecting his little fiefdom, would take her report, tell her, "I'll look into it," throw it into his inbox, and then promptly forget about it. My sister has a tremendous amount of patience, unless you're being stupid, which in this case, Mark was, as far as she was concerned. Fast forward a couple of months, the reports are still stacked on top of each other in Mark's inbox, and Brooke's getting real frustrated because these field guys are abusing the time and effort she's putting in while attempting to get them in for their required classes. So one day, Brooke's having lunch in the company cafeteria along with a gal from corporate accounting. They get to talking, and Angie mentions that she's noticed the travel department's expenses are really high, percentage-wise, compared to others, and asks if Brooke has any idea why. Well, that was all it took. My sister unloaded her frustration with all the cancellations with no repercussions, thus sending the travel department's budget off the charts. Not to mention the fact she wasn't getting any support from Mark towards reducing the numbers. Brooke tells Angie she's got an idea to put an end to the waste, but she wants to get approval from somebody higher up the food chain in order to implement her idea, because she doubts Mark's ability to comprehend, let alone implement. Angie tells Brooke that she thinks she knows exactly who Brooke needs to talk to, and within a couple of days, Brooke and Angie are sitting in a plush corner office talking to the Vice President of Operations, Victor, explaining the situation. It only took Victor a couple of minutes to make a decision after Brooke described what was going on, plus her idea on how to correct it. And he told Angie that Brooke's idea was brilliant, and that the policy change would become effective on the 1st of the month, 10 days later, which he followed up with a memorandum sent to all employees shortly after their meeting was over. Paydays were the 5th and the 20th. Those in the field who had expense accounts had to complete and turn them into accounting by the 5th to be processed and paid along with regular wages, bonus, and commissions on the 20th. Brooke's policy change idea, with the Victor's blessing, was to charge back against the offender's expense account the costs associated with getting him to his corporate meeting when he didn't show up. Airline fares, hotel room, rental cars, etc. Sis told me that the first month the policy went into effect, the howls of protest could be heard all over Silicon Valley, as several ended up with minuscule paychecks after the chargebacks. But the policy had exactly the results Brooke wanted. Within 3 months, everyone showed up to their meetings on time as scheduled, and virtually without any more no-shows. Epilogue: some adjustments were made to the policy during Sis's tenure, one of them being that if you knew in advance that you couldn't make a scheduled meeting, as long as it was a minimum of 2 weeks' notice, she could then reschedule without penalties. Other situations, such as medical emergencies, were judged on a case-by-case basis, but required documentation to prevent the chargeback. Sis only worked at this company about 18 months before a head-turner stole her away to be the plant manager's administrative assistant when the microchip manufacturer that's in practically everybody's personal computer decided to build a new facility outside of Silicon Valley. She told her new boss she wasn't moving unless he could find her husband a job within the company, and he did. So they did, and they've been in that area ever since. My sister has a great career, and I'm very proud of her. Going back to the beginning of this story, just going to correct what OP said a little bit because I believe the line was, "Is it live or is it Memorex?" which was a commercial from way back in the day that some of my viewers might remember. Now, a line we had from our previous story about taking a slap shot to the taint from Gretzky when you hit them in the wallet, well, that really pertains to this story as well, because sometimes hitting them where it hurts, the wallet, is the only way to gain compliance. There was a pretty heated discussion in the comments for this one about whether this really belongs in ProRevenge. Now, I believe it does, but I'd like to hear from you guys, so comment down below. Check out all 3 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching, I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.